Dan Cilley, welcome to the Modern Sales Management Show.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks, Josh.
So let's get right into it. Tell our audience about your unique position in the sales management, sales leadership world, and how you found yourself in this position.
Good question. Well, we help organizations struggle with their technology strategy. So I've worked with enterprises for most of my career. Started off with contact centers, kind of brick and mortar, large call centers, um, and it kind of gave me an opportunity to start engage with technology, started to see the advantages it brought. But most recently, probably in the last 10 years, I saw the greatest opportunity through technology and ability to meet compliance and legal requirements and also avoid them. So tech can be great, and it's become a great tool to help buyers really enable their success. But really, the reason I do it today is we're really helping organizations that are struggling with their selection and integration strategy. More often than not seeing the ROI in their technology. And if you think about enterprises, it's actually incredibly a large amount of investment annually. It's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, and potentially there could be that much in waste as well as it relates to their tech. And that's what wakes me up every day and gets me excited.
Let's dig into, where do people struggle with getting the ROI? Are there patterns that you see, because you've done this for years and for hundreds of companies? Are there patterns that you see on the organizational level or on the individual level with that you could help point out so that people listening to this today can avoid?
Well, too often companies don't evaluate how their sales tech solutions really address their priorities. Instead, they rely a lot on peers. They rely on recommendations, reviews, and they're not thinking about their own process or their own challenges. That's usually the biggest issue. They're not thinking about their own process.
So what does the perfect selection and integration process look like?
Well, it doesn't start with technology, I'll tell you that. That's probably the second to last step in when we think about evaluating an organization and their process. First, it starts with their stakeholders. Who's going to help hinder or hurdle your opportunity forward, right? It's everybody has their own opinion, everybody has their own needs in an organization, and if you don't understand what impact a new piece of technology or a resource is going to have on those stakeholders, then you don't bother starting on the process. So we like to first understand the stakeholders, understand if their willingness to work on a project or an initiative to drive the organization forward. But more often than not, it's about understanding what technology they already have, right? So if they have technology in play, what are they using it for? How are they using it? What data is supporting it? What insights are they deriving from it? And then also, are they willing to share it across the organization and the other stakeholders to bring real value? And then once we have that insight, it really helps us kind of think about, are there gaps, are there opportunities? And then if there are, what is the capability of the organization to actually utilize some of the technology that could fill those gaps? Because more often than not, most organizations are just way behind the eight ball in their own capabilities. They don't have the content, the resources, other technology to support it, the source of truth. So they're kind of behind the eight ball, like I said, and they're not able to kind of have that Ferrari or those high-end solutions. They're really more positioned for, the Ford, right? Something that's going to really make sense today. And that's where we help organizations think about this as well as, do you really need to spend X on your sales tech, or can you achieve the same goal with Y? So that's what we like to do.
Are they expecting that kind of answer, or are they expecting you to come in and just pitch the Ferrari?
Oh yeah, they assume that we're aligned to the stack behind us. That's not the case at all. The facts are is we're gonna first look at your priorities, look at the challenges you're trying to address, and then we're gonna uh, look at the solutions that are aligned to those priorities and challenges, and then have meetings, have discussions around how those technologies are going to address your priorities and your challenges, from their point of view, and then you can ask questions as a buyer from your perspective. But at the end of the day, yeah, like you said, they expect it to be sold, right? But that's not what we're here to do. If it can be done with spreadsheets and a combination of simple technology, we're always going to encourage the less costly strategy. But at the end of the day as well, there's a lot of technology that needs to be supported by these initiatives, or individuals and resources that need to be supported by these initiatives. And that does cost sometimes quite a bit. That is an investment that an organization has to think about, whether it's the data to support the technology, or the resources like the administrative resources and the content creation resources and third-party resources for content development as well. So it's just a lot of things that have to be considered to really think about the real value of tech.
How is the technology landscape, and specifically the sales technology landscape, changed in the past 3 years? And how does the pace of that change impact people's decision to make, or their ability to make decisions?
We were on a webinar the other day, and the question was asked of our analyst, Stephen Wright, what three technologies are making the greatest impact today? And he said, engagement, engagement, engagement. So if you're not, if the technology isn't helping you engage with your prospects, with your customers, helping your customers engage with you, then you're probably not heading in the right direction when it comes to your sales tech. So that's really, really important. When you think about 3 years ago, 3 to 5 years ago, the sales stack was 100 solutions. This landscape behind me is a little over 70. The greater sales tech landscape is over 700. And when you add CRM, marketing automation solutions to that, which is a little bit of a crossover now between sales tech and MarTech, well over 800. And that's a considerable number. But when you think about the MarTech landscape as a whole, individually or independently, that's over 7,000 solutions. And again, that's something we never want to be there when it comes to sales tech. It's just not a world we want to be in. We'd rather see these organizations consolidate, work together to help the buyer, help the consumer see success. And at the end of the day, that's where the greatest value is going to be in the tech stack.
So, I mean, if you're listening to this today and you are struggling to get your arms around the right solution set for your organization, that's normal. It's typical. Like with 7,000 solutions or even 700 solutions, do you see a lot of analysis paralysis, Stan?
Yeah, that's the fact is, you look at these resources, they used to be called resources, right? Sales tech landscape, right? 700 plus solutions. That was called a resource at one point. And it's not, it's paralyzing. It's paralyzing for most buyers, because you really look at that and you're like, where do I start? Like, where do I start? What's my point A? Because that's what most buyers are looking for. They're looking for an A to Z strategy, and they're looking for a framework to deliver success. So, it really needs to start with looking inward, right? What's going to move the needle the most within your own organization? What should be your priorities? And then what technology is going to enable that priority? So that's really where you have to start thinking about this. Mm-hmm. And then once it gets a little bit complicated, reach out to us and we can help with the heavy lift on a larger strategy, especially at the enterprise level.
Can you walk us through in a little bit more detail your framework for getting past that overwhelm?
Sure. Let me take a drink of water for this one. So our framework is called STACK, STACK. So STACK, again, we already talked about stakeholder. So stakeholder is S. So it's just like I said before, it's understanding that those group of individuals are they going to help, hinder, or hurdle your opportunity forward. then T, the technology audit of that stakeholder, those organizations. What data is supporting it, what technology are they currently using, what insights are they looking for from it. Gather all that data. It's really important. Once you have that information, then understanding your capability to support the gaps that you currently have. Now, first of all, gaps, may be able to fill with technology, may take training, maybe consultants. But at the end of the day, there are gaps that are going to occur, and you're going to need to identify them. Once you have identified them, identify your capability to fill them or utilize the technology that is going to address them. Once you have that understanding, then start to think about the questions that you need to ask, not only yourself, what's this good look like, but also the vendor community, because they need to, be held accountable, and they need to talk about customers that look like you, act like you, in the marketplace, because that's what's going to give you the best insight into how they're going to benefit you. When organizations work with us directly, we don't have them do that heavy lift on the questions with the vendor community, or vice versa. We actually moderate a lot of those meetings with the vendors to help them simplify that process.
Well, what I like about that is you giving us a starting point. Every organization's in a different place. They have a different maturity and understanding of the sales enablement technology landscape. But that framework, at that high level, gives you a starting point to, looking inward, as you said.
We actually ran into when we started Vendor Neutral, it was difficult because we wanted to help everybody, right? So we were getting enterprises, SMBs, mid-market, everybody. They'd come to us and they would say, "Oh, how can you help us?" "Well, we'll help you. It won't cost anything. It'll just, we just want to manage the referral to the vendor, right? So then that way we may have a great relationship with the vendor community and further enhance our ability in the marketplace." And then the CFO will be like, "Wait a minute, it doesn't cost anything? Forget it. Can't hold anybody accountable, can't put a price tag to it, then forget it. We're not interested in working with an organization that doesn't, isn't going to have a price tag." They're not going to come on and say that specifically, but at the end of the day, that's what it was. And so we started to, have a cost, right? We started to have a cost. Again, the cost was specifically related to our time and effort. And more relates to also that stack framework. We understand how much time that A to Z process takes now, whether you're a small company or a large company. As long as we have the resources and the opportunity to engage, we can get those answers and get the information pretty quickly. So it doesn't really matter the size of the company, as long as they're willing to provide that insight. We can gather all the details we need for an audit under between 30 and 60 days usually.
Oh, wow. That's really helpful. Are there common pitfalls or mistakes that you see organizations making when they're selecting the right technology set?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's kind of like getting out there on social and asking, "Hey, what are you using for your CRM? What are you using for your prospect engagement or sales engagement technology?" You're going to hear all kinds of recommendations. They're going to be the top products in the market, more often than not, because they have a relationship with those organizations. They're going to get a piece of that action when they make that referral and get that lead to them. But at the end of the day, you really need to think about what's important to you. What are your priorities? What are your challenges as an organization? And don't get me wrong, the review sites, the research that you should be doing includes the review sites and includes feedback from your peers. But you really need to start somewhere that's really thinking about your challenges and your priorities. And that's what Vendor Neutral does, is that we help you kind of start this process, kind of have that roadmap for the future. Then after you've kind of done that research, then read the reviews, then, understand what others are saying about this technology. And especially if they're in a similar industry, because no organization is the same. And that's what you have to remember, is that no technology is going to fit every organization the same way.
Who owns their relationship with you, and who owns this decision inside of enterprise companies these days?
Well, we're engaged at all levels, but more often than not, it's head of sales, head of marketing. We CISO, chief information officer. We've seen some really unique titles more recently: transformation officer. We've seen some, roles that are kind of popping up that are very specific to evolution, helping these companies get from point A to point B, especially some of these legacy organizations. There are companies that have been around 60, 70, 80, 100 years that have a lot of legacy technology, old ERP, old CRM, homegrown solutions, and they have no choice but at this point to digitally transform to it's not a consideration anymore. It's a necessity. Their competition is, for sure. And the newcomers to the market in their space don't need to worry about it. And they're going to leapfrog these organizations very quickly. So this is the time everybody needs to think about digital transformation, and this is the time to take action as well.
How do you describe digital transformation in a way that makes sense to everybody, where they can understand it, as well as where you get the most buy-in? Because it's one of those terms that scares just as many people as it excites, and people attach their own definitions to it.
Well, it comes down to that moving the needle, right? So again, going back to analyzing your priorities, the challenges that your organization is trying to address. If those challenges, the things that are keeping you up at night, are going to move the needle for your organization, and the technology is going to enable that, that's where you have to start. That's the most important factor here, is because take action on the things that are going to make a difference today. Don't worry about the warm and fuzzy stuff down the road. Take action on the things that are going to enable your success today. And that may be, conversation intelligence. That may be prospect engagement. That may be sales enablement. Those are the resources that enable the virtual seller, because it gives them access to cloud-based technologies and resources that quickly enable them to engage with people and prospects.
So when I talk about sales enablement, I always try to get people to look at it as salesperson enablement, because at the end of the day, if you're enabling a human. Yep. So I have a couple human questions for you.
Please.
Do salespeople trust technology?
Depending on your age group. So the younger you are, the more trustworthy you are of technology. The millennials are very willing and open to share their data for a little bit of access. The people in my age group, 40 plus, 50, probably not so happy about that awareness and that visibility into their personal life. But again, it all depends on who you are. At this point, I can say this, that the individuals who are engaging with technologies today, and I actually put a post a couple of days ago about this, think about the virtual seller a year ago. They are a very different animal than they are today. That virtual seller a year ago has grown tremendously because they had to. They had to move from a semi face-to-face opportunity to 100% virtual, leveraging tools that they were not comfortable with probably in the past, updating technology that they did not normally update in the past, because the visibility that was required by their management relied on technology. And unless you wanted a phone call every day, but I can tell you right now, that didn't work either. I've talked to a number of managers that during COVID, they've had, had an opportunity to engage with the reps every single day. They chose to, and what a mistake it was, because, nobody needs to be micromanaged. They need to be given an opportunity to succeed. Technology enables that success, also gives managers the visibility they need into the consumption and reps' ability to deliver.
So let's talk about the executive level. Can they put their trust in technology? Do they trust technology to drive the organization, or are they slower to come around?
They've been depending on technology forever. So at the most senior level, that's something that's been pretty clear to us, is, the CIO of an organization has been providing reports upward for decades. It is, again, these reports can be much more granular now. They can be much more specific, especially as it relates to, pipeline of opportunities, how that's going to affect your manufacturing. Again, there's just so much more now that's been integrated and is visible for organizations that was never visible before. So I don't think that the manager, the senior leadership is going to be apprehensive at all, because that gives them what they need to make educated decisions. And prior to this, they were able to make decisions, but not as educated.
So I have a couple more questions for you, because I'm really enjoying this conversation. How can companies balance advanced insight and productivity tools with overcomplicating the process and inducing technology fatigue among their team? Where is that balance?
It's a great question. I'm enjoying this conversation too. This is great. So let's keep reps in their workflow, right? So often reps are eager to be productive more often than not. So let them be productive. If they can be productive in their product, in their opportunity management section of their CRM or whatever, let's keep them in that focus. So often what happens is a rep is in that opportunity management or contact awareness or account awareness area of their CRM, and they're pulled away by a third-party resource, whether it's for research purposes or for insights or for whatever it is. And what happens is they leave that opportunity management, that prospect, they go out to the third-party piece of resource, the third-party resource, and now they come back an hour and a half later. And it's proven, there's a lot of data out there about this, is that it takes upwards of an hour to an hour and a half for that rep to return back to that original strategy. So let's keep them focused. Let's keep them engaged. Let's push insights to them while they're engaging with prospects, while they're engaging with customers. And that can be done very easily. It can be done using artificial intelligence and machine learning. Let those tools monitor the channels of communication. Instead of letting that channel of communication distract a rep and pull them away, let's push that information right to them. Let's let them know that XYZ organization is, sent an email looking for a brochure or whatever your prospect is looking for, and provide that insight. And great thing about it is, you can also have tools that are available to you as a user in your workflow that bring you the data you need. That you can put a bot there, right, with a search engine that, you throw a question in there, it goes out and searches everything that every database in your organization, every channel that you're monitoring, and brings back that awareness rather than you going out and finding it. Keep yourself focused. That's where you're going to see the greatest results.
No, I really like that, because you're not talking about a technology at that point. Technology comes second. You're talking about helping people. It's psychology and process and adoption, and keeping people focused. It's aligning with human nature.
Yeah, shiny keys, shiny object syndrome, right? That's what technology can be very easily, is a shiny thing that is a distraction. It has to be integrated effectively to be useful. Nothing is built to work with another piece of technology unless you talk about Salesforce. So, everything's built to support Salesforce or HubSpot right now. That's basically the world around MarTech and sales tech is focused on. But the facts is there's a ton of CRM solutions out there that can do all of the things you're looking for at pennies on the dollar compared to those resources. But if you're looking for resources that are going to work in collaboration, that are going to deliver the greatest results, well, then you have to consider the more higher end resources, because other technology is going to be more easily integrated. So there's a balance. So, a lot of the things that do save you money do kind of distract you, right? Can sometimes take you out of your workflow. Even though we encourage you to consider those things, because that's a balance, right? There's a value there. Don't always, don't go to the cheap route if it's going to make a negative impact on your organization.
And that's sometimes a hard message to convey, that the ecosystem and the centralization of information is incredibly valuable because it's intangible.
It's a source of truth, and I say that to everybody. You have to start with that level of that source of truth. And if you have a CRM that has been poorly managed for decades, and you're not able to scaffold it with your ERP data, go out and buy data. Buy the data that represents your base, supplement it, get it up to par, then move from that point forward. Don't put more work on the back of your reps. Don't ask them to further qualify these accounts. Sorry, your reps in the past didn't do it, but the facts are the facts. Don't waste more money by throwing money at a situation that you could solve very simply by acquiring data pennies on the dollar.
Well, that's great advice. So I'm going to wrap up with when you speak in front of large groups, and let's say you're keynoting at a conference when we do live conferences again. Where should sales leaders set their eyes if they want to be ahead of the curve in 2021 and 2022 when it comes to their technology stack?
This is an easy one, actually. Communication. So this is about communicating with your team and never stopping. So if you're considering a strategy to improve your organization via technology through outside resources, training, third-party consultants, whatever that is, communicate that ahead of time. Ask for their feedback. Ask for what motivates them. Find out who's an extrinsic motivate. What drives them individually. So that's where I really believe the organizations need to start their focus is at the user level. Organizationally, they need to communicate with each other, understand what the goals and objectives are, then think about their own process. Then understand where the gaps are in that process, where their pains and frustrations are and challenges are, and then think about the technology that potentially could fill them, or even the training resources or third-party consultants and change management that could help you out as well. Then think about as well how organizations like you have succeeded. Other organizations have. There are great platforms out there like the Sales Enablement Society, American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, great groups that are out there. The practitioners are out there sharing their successes and how technology has enabled them. But remember, no organization is the same. Not every piece of technology is going to enable each organization in the same way. So please evaluate your priorities, evaluate your challenges, and then take a look at the technology that addresses them.
Dan, this has been a great conversation. Where can people connect with you online and learn more about what you do?
Well, it's easy to find us. Google Vendor Neutral, vendorneutral.com. Our website is free to buyers at all levels. Our resources are free. We have a ton of them. So check us out anytime you'd like. We have a lot of webinars, podcasts, and blog posts as well for your sales process and helping you in this discovery of your own.
So we covered a lot of topics today. And is there any last sales management advice that you'd like our audience to hear?
Simplify your sales tech selection process. Don't complicate it. Think about what's going to really move the needle in your organization and then focus in that area first.
I think that's a great note to end on. Dan, Cilley, I want to thank you for your time in this conversation and especially your insight.
Thank you, Josh. Great to have you. Great to be part of this today. I really appreciate the time.
And that does it for another episode of the Modern Sales Management Podcast. Have a great day.